orientation. Let's turn the spotlight on to Chaka Gary.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure, a privilege, and an honor to be invited to this space by Melanie. My word for today is gratefulness. I'm always grateful for the opportunity to participate in activities that are geared toward social justice. My personal thoughts on the spotlight mind over matter is understanding that when we think about mind over matter, that we want to highlight the fact that we have the mental capacity to be able to change the way we perceive a situation that will in turn determine how we engage and how we respond to different stimuli. And so today we're looking at a climate of systemic oppression as it relates to our perception of COVID-19. There was a perception from state agencies, city agencies, that this pandemic would threaten our lives. And so a unilateral decision was made by the state to shut down our country, shut down our economic structure, shut down our healthcare system, shut down our social interactions. And I think this is indicative of what we talk about when we talk about systemic oppression, where state is using their power over individuals who are vulnerable and relatively powerless in their social and political sphere to control bodies. What came out of this shutdown was a reality that there are some people in the Black and Hispanic and other indigenous communities who are adversely and disproportionately affected by systemic power and systemic control and systemic balance. And so one of the interesting things is that we saw numbers of people who were dying rapidly or at a disproportionate rate, being of the Black and brown community. And so we see that our community responds in a way whereby we begin to learn our power. I think historically we learned that we have power. We have power in our voice. We have power in our protest. We have power in our dollar. We have power in our ability to change a narrative, right? And so therefore we go from a period of numbers being reported of brown and Black bodies dying to now seeing brown and Black bodies in the streets protesting. And so this is very important for me as I look at how my own personal life story has unfolded. I'm an individual at the age of 16. I was incarcerated for committing a series of crimes that led to me being sentenced to 15 years to life. And in 1996, I am going through this period of spiritual awakening where I find myself in a prison jail cell on a floor in solitary confinement, high off a bag of dope. And I have this vision. And in this vision, I see my parents sitting around a table with syringes in their arms, leaned over, blood profusely coming out of their arms. And this was an image that I saw growing up as a child that's now replaying itself at the age of 24. And I have this internal experience whereby a voice comes to me And it communicates to me that if I continue to lead my life down this path, I would die the way my parents died. My parents died from HIV/AIDS complications due to being intravenous drug users. And so for me, this was a spiritual awakening, because my response to that was to rise up off the floor, go to the cell gate, and then pronounce the limited space within a systemic depression, and tell them that I will not die in prison, but yet I will live. That I would no longer be a part of the problem, that I would be a part. And so from 1996 onward, I begun to seek ways in which I can be a part of the solution. But for me, because I was so much a part of the problem, I had to take some responsibility. And so I had to begin a process of addressing my own anger problems. I had to address my violent tendencies. I had to address my drug addiction. Ultimately, I had to reconcile this historical memory that I had of my parents, and kind of do some reconstructionist history within myself. And so now we fast forward to 2020, where now I'm finding myself in spaces through Charismatic Prison to Purpose Ministries, where now I'm able to minister to individuals who are caught up in that same process in the criminal justice system, experiencing this systemic pressure, but not realizing that they have power to transform their situation if they can just change the way they see themselves in the system. And so we do a lot of work around that. But me personally, I find myself saying, hey, now that I see the world differently, and I see my place in the world differently, and I see my role in the world differently, how do I now get inside the system and begin to change the system from within? And so now I see myself in this particular role that I now have at Exodus Transitional Community, which is also a faith-based community that's on the front lines of addressing mass incarceration. By providing employment-based services, housing-based services, case management services, connecting people to mental health services, right? And so now it brings to my mind the importance of why each and every one of us need to get involved within our own spheres. For me, at one point in time, it became very clear to me that my pain became my mission, right? And so therefore, a lot of us are looking for different ways to get involved. And there are multiple different ways to get involved. I chose to get involved in the area where my life was most impacted, where I felt that my story would be most transformative. And that's with individuals that was directly impacted by crime, incarceration, and the criminal justice system. I would encourage each and every one of us to look into our own personal stories, look into our own personal pain, look into our own personal trauma, to find that light that could be ignited, that we can then take and carry as a torch into the battle. Find your lane. I found my lane in criminal justice reform. And I thank you. And those are my opening comments.